This panel and this subject is so darn important because it's fundamental to who we are as a country. You can't have a country if you're only allowed to say what the left says is okay.
I am here to protect women, girls. My God, why do I have to apologize? And you know what? We won. We won. So I will not apologize now or ever for trying to protect my daughters and women in sports. And that's what this hearing was about. Protecting women. So you know what? I am a woman, and let me tell you, hear me roar, because I will not stop protecting women. You want to know why? Because we have rights too. Women have rights too. And our daughters have rights too. Frankly, I am mystified by the Biden administration's shameless failures to protect women's rights. We talk about protecting women's rights like that's such a bad thing, that's so evil to protect women's rights. Have we lost our minds? The Biden administration is weakening Title IX by allowing all males who identify as women to participate in women's sports. Okay, identify as women. How about just be a woman? Why can't I protect my women? Why can't I protect my daughters?
Compete against women in sports is just crazy. I love what Governor Huckabee Sanders said in response to the State of the Union. She said, the divide in America today is normal versus crazy. And this is one of those obvious divides. It is crazy to think it's okay to let guys compete against girls in sports. That is just a given. The whole country knows that. Anyone with common sense understands that. But I'm also more concerned, or maybe not more concerned, just as concerned with what happens if you speak out against it, which is exactly what happened to Miss Russell.
Virgin Islands.
So you're an accomplished coach, but because you said what was normal, you got fired. Is that right?
Because I said what was normal, it was not liked.
Yeah,
and I was canceled.
I shouldn't say fired. Yeah, you were canceled because you weren't allowed to coach anymore. They moved you somewhere else. I read your testimony last night. They moved you somewhere else in the athletic department or in the university at Oberlin. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, and I always tell people, don't think they won't come after you, because I don't think you're not some crazy right-wing conservative Republican, all right, Miss Russell. You're just a coach. In fact, you even used the term. What did you say? You're the hippie love coach. That's not exactly how you describe normally not how you describe Republicans. They understood that. They're willing to come, but that wasn't good enough. This is the part that is so frightening. It's never good enough for the left. It's always got to be every single thing they want, or we're coming after you. Even if you're the hippie love coach, they're coming after you. And that's what they did to you. I mean, this is how the left, this is how the cancel culture mob operates. It's a total attack. So this is bigger than, as bad as it is what Ms. Gaines described, what she had to go through. And if I remember your story right, Ms. Gaines, you won, but you weren't able to be number one because of this Leah Thomas individual. You actually won. I mean, bad enough as that is, this attack on the First Amendment and your right to speak out against that is just as bad and just as scary, because that's across the board. And I tell people all the time, you have 5 liberties under the First Amendment. Your right to practice your faith, your right to assemble, your right to petition the government, free press, free speech. The most important one, by far, is your right to talk. Because if you can't talk, you can't practice your faith, you can't share your faith, you can't petition your government. And you spoke out against something that anyone with any common sense knows is ridiculous, and they came after you. That's why this panel, and Chairman, thank you for doing this. This panel and this subject is so darn important because it's fundamental to who we are as a country. You can't have a country if you're only allowed to say what the left says is okay. And for people who stand up and defend that, they need to, Miss Goss-Graves, I don't know, I wasn't able to be here for all of this, but my guess is you're defending this idea that guys can compete against girls. Maybe not, I didn't hear it. But don't think they won't come after you at some point, too. I mean, here's how bad the left is. The left, Dianne Feinstein, liberal, iconic senator for the left, wasn't even good enough for the left. It was the Dianne Feinstein Elementary School in San Francisco. They went back and found something she said 30 years ago, and they said, we got to rename the school. So no one is safe. If they can go after Miss Russell, 27 years coaching, for saying something that everybody knows is true, then come after anybody. And that is a dangerous world to live in. I didn't mean to speak that long. I actually wanted to let you guys talk. And Ms. Gaines or Ms. Perry, if you want to say something, go right ahead.
I think what we're seeing is sort of this philosophical devolution on truth. We've gone from an ontological perspective on truth. Truth is truth no matter how you feel, to a consequentialist approach on truth. Truth is truth so long as it doesn't hurt your feelings. The law doesn't care about feelings. The law is the law so that we have a method of American constitutional governance. And Title IX and the Constitution are very cut and dry. It doesn't matter whose feelings are hurt. And if there are indeed less than 1% of individuals in the country who are transgender, as Representative Garcia mentioned, why the urgency from the Biden Department of Education to suddenly upend 50 years of civil rights protections for biological women who benefit from Title IX? That is throwing the entire canon of civil rights law on its head.
Thank you all.
In her sport. So I'm very thankful. I can't believe we're here, though. I can't believe we're holding a hearing today. As a matter of fact, I can't believe many things. Today we have something called gender-affirming care in our country, which is really cutting off the body parts of people in order to make them feel like they're another gender, which is completely wrong. And this is something being pushed on kids, cutting off their breast, castrating them, which really will lead to lifelong debilitating conditions, physical conditions, and mental illness. Hopefully not suicide, but unfortunately that is the case. Reproductive health care has been mentioned here. Even the term reproductive justice, which is really capital punishment for innocent babies. There's nothing reproductive about abortion. It's murder. But one thing I'd like to talk about right now is the Gallup poll that was done in May of 2023. 69% say transgender athletes should play on teams that match their birth gender or biological sex. But guess what? That's actually gone up because the left is losing the battle. Because in 2020, May of 2020, the exact same Gallup poll was done, and it was only 62% that agreed that transgender athletes should play on teams that match their birth gender or biological sex. So watching biological men dominating real women in sports is moving America's opinion to defend biological women and Title IX. This is a losing issue for Democrats because America fully agrees we have to protect women's sports. It's beautiful. In 2013, Serena Williams stated, if I were to play Andy, maybe 10 minutes. No, it's true. It's a completely different sport. The men are a lot faster and they serve harder, they hit harder. It's just a different game. So sounds like she doesn't think she could beat men either. But let's talk about some of your comments. You said that this is attacking and dehumanizing on trans. Ms. Goss-Graves, how do you think Ms. Gaines felt? Do you think she felt dehumanized being forced to undress in front of men in her sports or attacked?
Here's what I think.
That's a yes or no question.
But if I could
being forced to undress in front of a man, isn't that dehumanizing or attacking?
I could answer this question, Madam Chairman, because I actually think this is really, really important. The issue of privacy in locker rooms and in bathrooms, there's a wide range of
So
ways
you feel like Ms. Gaines should have had privacy?
To address that. You could put up a curtain, you could put up a door, you could have rotations.
I reclaim my time, Ms. Goss-Graves. Ms. Gaines, did you feel attacked and dehumanized? Ms. Gaines, did you feel attacked and dehumanized?
I certainly did. And in swimming locker rooms, there are no curtains, there are no stalls, there are no doors.
But there could be curtains.
This is, I reclaim my time. It's Ms. Gaines right now.
That would be restructuring how I've competed in my entire 18 years of competing for what we've described in this hearing today as such a small percentage of the population. We would restructure and uproot what we're used to and what works and allows us to be, I think we can all agree, a locker room in general is not a comfortable place, even of course in dressing in front of all women. But growing up a swimmer in that environment, again for 18 years of my life, you become comfortable being vulnerable in that environment. And and my teammates and my competitors, we had our vulnerability stripped from us by the leaders of the NCAA and again, those who implemented this policy.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines. I yield.